Okay, I got another project in. I thought we'd make a video on something we need to talk about. I do a lot of Model 21 stuff. I'm more of a Browning guy than anything, but I do a lot of 21s. I got a project in the other day from a man, a Model 21 complete gun. I have to have the complete gun for this. And what has happened, and this is kind of common, is I've taken the top rib off. It's just dovetailed on. This lug is loose on the bottom, and that's kind of common. They do that, and once they come loose like that, it's a real major operation to put that lug back on, because you can't just pull it out and sweat it back on. You have to take it all the way out, and you have to slide out the end of the barrels, because it's actually goes up between the barrels. So it's a big expense. It's a major operation, and that's what we're going to do today. I've taken this rib off the top. It's dovetailed in, and they're just held on by a simple pin here, and I kind of got that other way. And the top rib is loose also, so it needs a complete rib reset. Well, it needs a top rib resolder for sure. It'll need a bottom rib. Well, you need the bottom rib resolder also, because you can see when this lug came forward, it knocked the under rib off and bent it up, and so it needs a full rib set any way you look at it. This gun's going to be a bit of a problem because it's got Bradley choke tubes in. The barrels are really thin. And I put a little tiny index mark on the front here so I can get these barrels back where they belong. So we're going to get our torch out and fire it up, and we're going to commence to remove ribs and see what we are up against on this project. So I'm in the process of removing the top rib, and these are just all soldered on, so they come off with just a little heat. Doesn't take a lot. And I'm gonna get this top rib off. You don't want to bend it up and kink it too much. Just slowly let it come off. Normally, if I wasn't doing a full set, I would have a clamp I have to go in the muzzle to kind of hold everything together. No need in doing that today because it's all gonna come off. And you see that rib jump off of there? It was loose all the way down through here. So now, this is the land of burns and scalds. So try not to burn myself too much. I have a rag here. This rib actually had a screw in it down at the breech end. And there. Alright. That rib is off. Throw it on the floor here. We're going to cool down. After you take that rib off, this barrel's a little hot. Excuse me. There are spacers between these barrels. This is your lug here. Your spacers here, one there. I only see two. I'm going to put about 3 in when I do it, because when we wire this back on, pull everything down tight, you don't have these spacers in here. It'll squeeze your barrels together, then they both shoot. It'll make your barrels crooked. So top rib is off and out of the way. There's that lug we're after. As you can see, it comes up through the barrel. We've got the top rib off. Now we're going to go for the under rib and remove it. Let's see how easy it pops off here. Oh, it's coming up right now. Okay, under rib is coming off. Here it comes. So anyway, here's the under rib, and it just popped loose. It was loose, and it's all hot. It's all kinked up at the. It fell on the floor. Let's get a place for it. Let it cool. Here's that lug we're after right here. This one's called solid debris. Now something else we need to talk about. This one came in without. There's a little rib piece right here I didn't have to take off. This goes behind the lug. That's real critical when you put that back on. That's going to tell you where the spacing of your lug is. This lug's got to be just right when it goes back on. So the barrels have been separated. The ribs have been taken off anyway. Now we're going to see if we can get these barrels to come apart. And sometimes when you put the heat on, they just kind of tend to jump apart. This one, yeah, there it came. They just, you couldn't see it there probably in the video, but the barrels just came apart. They opened up at the muzzle. Now, I was mistaken on this one here. It does have a third spacer, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to take these out, but I'm going to mark with a little scratch on the barrel where each one of those spacers go, so I can get them right back in there. That's real critical. So they come apart. Now see, now we got to get these spacers out. So I take a little heat there. This is there it comes. There's the first one out. All right, let's see. That first one was a solid piece of steel. These other spacers are just made out of wound. Here's the second one coming out. They've kind of just wound up some sheet metal or something, put it in there. It's real thin. They wind it up till they get the thickness they want. And to make things easy on myself, I'm just going to use those spacers. There's a third one that came out. All right. Those spacers are out. I'm going to need something here to grab hold of this lug with. All right, here's a real culprit right here. This is what we're after all along, is this lug. Let's see how it comes out. It's got to come out through the front of the barrel. That's the only way it's going to come out. And see if I can get it to move. It's moving around a little bit. I'll have to check. Sometimes I've seen them do some weird things, like put like a screw in them or something that's supposed to hold them in place so they don't come off like this. I hadn't noticed that on this one, but it might have something. No, I don't see anything there. It's just tight. And it's got chunks of solder that are interfering with it. So probably have to kind of get rid of the solder here so it can slide off. There's a lot of solder and junk down under here. Get this out of the way so that lug has a clear shot and travel right down and come out the front of the barrel. Okay, I think I got most of it to where it should come out. All right, let's put a little heat on it. You know, the gun shop is the land of skulls and burns. That barrel's high. Anyway, I got to get this lug to move and come forward right out the front. Solder splattering. I'm putting a lot of heat on that lug. It's moving. Here's where it is. I see where this is something I've seen on occasion. Let's see if I can show it to you. That's why the lug won't come forward. Winchester, the Model 21, some of them, I've never seen this on all of them by any means. Some of them have a screw that goes down through the top to make it tight. This one you might not be able to see. There's a little bar, I'm going to call it, a little spacer right there. It just fell out. That's actually, looks like it was slightly dovetailed in to the barrel in front of that lug, and that's there to keep that lug from shifting forward, because this is kind of a common thing. And it was doing its job there, but the lug was still loose. Here's that little piece. I don't want to lose that. Right there. I don't want to lose it. I'm going to put it right here, because I'm going to put that back in. Now my lug's coming off. See that? Here it comes. Hold on to these barrels here. This is a major job. I've done a lot of them. They're not hard, they just take a lot of time. And I thought you might find this interesting. Alright. Here's what we're after right there. See how it's contoured out so it can go up between those barrels. I'm going to put it back on. I'm going to clean it up really good with a lot of solder. I'm going to put that little spacer in there that didn't do its job real well the first time. It's actually, there's a slot cut in the barrels. Taking that out there right there is a major job. So we're going to clean up this set of barrels and get things wired all back into place. And we're going to solder on this lug, and that'll be our next phase of this video. So we're going to go to work and start cleaning it up, and we'll see how it goes from there. So I am in the process of cleaning up all this mess down between the barrels. They cool down a bit so I can handle them now. A lot of crud down in here, a lot of rust. We have to clean up the surfaces where this rib is going to seat back down, and they have to be cleaned up really good or the solder won't stick. You have to have nice, bright, shiny steel. So I've got a little half-round file, some 120 emery cloth, and I'm working on cleaning up that surface where the under rib is going to reattach to the barrel. And I'm spending a lot of time polishing here, getting it cleaned up, because when we go to rust with these barrels, if we have a leak in them, it just makes it really difficult to glue them. So better spend a little time, get them cleaned up good, and get the rib on there tight. It makes it a lot easier on the guy doing the rust with. So we're working on the under rib right now. And that's probably all we need there. Then we'll come back and do this top barrel a little bit, and we'll clean up the lug area. So, still in the process of cleaning up these barrels. I got my little chisel out, getting rid of some lumps of solder. They're real rusty down in between the barrels. We're going to get that out. I'm cleaning up this lug area where this lug goes, right here. And I'm really cleaning that up down. I want good bare steel, all kinds of bare steel for that lug to attach to. I've cleaned up the little notch where that little block goes. I got all this crud up in here to get rid of yet. And we're cleaning this up. Basically, it was just, I use a half-round file. I've got some 120 emery cloth, and I kind of get down in there and sand out right along the edge where this top rib goes. I'm sanding it down to bare steel, and I'm trying to get a good, clean, polished surface there so that rib will stick back on and stick on good. So now's the cleanup, and we're getting ready. We have a little clamp here we made, and this is going to clamp, and I have already polished in between these barrels real good up the front here so they solder back together and hold together. And I have an index mark I put on here, just a small one, so small I can hardly see it, right there. And I'm going to put my little clamp on, and that's going to hold things together, keep those barrels together. So we'll carry on with this. We've worked a little bit on the under rib surfaces here and got it cleaned up pretty good. It's really cruddy down in between there, a lot of rust and what have you I got to get out. So we'll get it cleaned up and get things back in position, and then we will be ready to solder everything back together. So I'm getting ready to clean up these ribs. Look at all the rust that's under. This is the top rib here. A lot of rust under there. I'm going to clean all that stuff out of there, and I'm going to polish these little surfaces right on the edge here real good. Polish those so the solder can flow and stick. This is the under rib. It's pretty rusty too. We're going to clean that rust off. And this one does most of it sticking right along these little edges here. So we're going to make sure we clean that up good. And we have a lot of cleanup work to do here on these barrels to get all the crud out from between them. But we're getting there, and won't be long. We'll be ready to do some resolder work. Right, we're putting everything back together at this point. I've slid in my lug. Make sure you get that lug right. You can get them 180 out. I'm going to put in my little block that goes in front of that lug. Then I'm going to, remember I marked where all my spacers go, and I'll put my spacers in. And I like to run, once I've done all this, I'm going to put a little bead of solder on each one of these little parts just to hold them in place. I've fluxed everything down. I've got a lot of flux on everything. I've got my ribs all cleaned up. I polished these edges real good. I sandblasted some of the rust out from underneath these. These things are really rusty. A word of note, a caution, don't try to sandblast and then leave it that way and do a rib resolder, because solder will not stick to metal that's been sandblasted. So that's where we are. We're going to start sliding in all of our spacers. We are going to put in our little, once we get everything, all our spacers in, we're going to put our little clip in the muzzle here to hold things together. I'm going to put a spot of solder on each one of these spacers and the lug. to make sure they stay in place, and then we're going to slide our ribs on and go to our rib resoldering process. So that's where we stand right now. I have put my spacers in we talked about. I put a little solder on my lug. I got this little short piece of rib behind the lug, and I butted that lug up again, that nice and snug, so this hopefully will come out right where it belongs. I'm in the wiring process now, wiring down the ribs. And what we do on these is get some out here. We wire these down just like I've got a superposed video out there where I've done a superposed rib. This is basically the same thing here. We wire them down and we put these little wedges in, and on this 21 we're going to put these wedges on the top and the bottom, and they go right under the wire. You tap it in and that pulls this top rib down. Now when I get all those run all up and down it, I will slide in my under rib, and this is all fluxed up and ready to go. I will slide this under rib in like so, and do the same thing here. I'll butt it up against the lug, and then I will put wedges in down here to pull the under rib down tight. And that's why you have to have those spacers between the barrels, because believe it or not, these wires and these wedges, they really create a lot of force. They really pull things together. If you don't have your wedges in there, you pull those barrels together and it'll bend your barrels. So having those wedges is critical. So we're going to slip all of our, finish wiring this and put our wedges in, and then we're going to step over to the resoldering area, and we'll put some heat to it and see what happens. So that's where we are to this point. So I got everything wired up, and I don't normally do ribs like this, but we have terrible temperatures down there, and our fan is froze up on our brewing room setup. So I just kind of set my torch up here. It's the same deal. We heat it up, heat just a section of the barrel up, and then we flow solder into it like so. I have all these ribs on here, just the same way I do a super barrel. Ribs are ribs, they all kind of go the same way. And we heat up a small section of it, and we flow the solder into it. And kind of like that. Like I say, normally I don't do ribs like this, but today I wanted to finish up a video, and the only way I could really do it is to kind of use my torch. It's the same method basically. Just do a small section and then flow the solder into it. If everything goes well, and it's doing well, that solder will suck right into those ribs, and it will pull that solder all the way up and down. Ooh, that's pulling in really good. That's a good sign. If you get them cleaned up good, it'll take solder real well, and that's very critical, very important, because these rib surfaces aren't real broad surfaces, and they need to get all the solder in they can to hold them together. And this one's taking the solder, it's pulling it right down in. And so after I do that, I flow solder, I carefully tap wedges in, kind of draw things together. Not too tight, you don't want to do it too tight or it'll pull your barrels together. So another little small section here. It took solder really well up at that muzzle area, and I'm going to just keep doing this all up and down the barrel until I finally get where I need to be, and then we'll kind of show the aftermath, the cleanup after we've gotten to that point. So I just do about 3 sections of wire at a time. This is the way we did them down at Browning. We actually had heating coils too you could use, but I always like the forge method. Seems like you control the heat better. And so then I'm gonna see if solder will flow here. Yes, it seems to be pulling it in very well. It is pulling it in really good, and that's what I need. Don't want any gaps, because when you go to rust blue these, if you have a leaking area, it makes it really hard to blue when the water's running out of it. So far we're getting that solder to pull in really well.